I just can't escape this Surviving Diddy series that's happening right before our eyes. Due in part that there are other layers, but most importantly, the Adult Survivors Act. Because once that sucker expires, another executive that's currently in Bali may pop up in the States. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast. This is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. This is like what, the third day of recording Surviving Diddy. This is probably part 3. I did the first part. That was my last video. I did a second part on the I Refuse podcast. That episode dropped yesterday. No, 2 days ago. Surviving Diddy Part 2 on the I Refuse podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I Refuse podcast. I'm Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Welcome back. I continued the conversation on The Usual Suspects with the Abstract Sagittarius. That episode's out as well. It's just so much of a huge discussion that needs to be had. And I'm so glad that, particularly when it comes to high-powered executives at record labels who look just like you and me, come up from wherever, however they come up, modest beginnings, to a place of respectability from their peers, other big wigs. They are trusted to deliver hits, trusted to make music, trusted with so many lives. And not only, and this goes beyond like the usual fare that we know about the industries, that it's never really in favor of the artists. The only two parties that come away with something pretty significant are us, the consumers, by way of music and movies, and the people behind the scenes that write, produce the songs, and the executives at these labels who get paid to deliver multi-million sales, right? In the last 10 or 15 years that we've had social media, we have seen a flurry of women come forward, documentaries being made, stories being told, and it started off mostly with actresses, white actresses, and the casting couch, so to speak. Then at some point, I want to say as early as about 3 years ago, I remember there was a documentary that was supposed to come out about, that guy that used to own Def Jam and started Def Jam with Rick Rubin. There was supposed to be something very positive that he was supposed to be doing with Oprah Winfrey. And at the last minute, Oprah Winfrey pulled out. And I remember saying on the podcast this week, there's more than 7 degrees of separation between all the music we've been listening to, R&B, hip hop, in the early 90s to the mid and late 2000s, that all paths in some way lead back to to Diddy. And with that, this other person has that same level of degrees of separation. The connection is that these men are protected. These men, to some degree, get off a long while. Any woman in a suit that has worked in those same offices with these men who face some kind of pushback for not accepting advances, for not romantic, sexual, romantic, dating, overture, not accepting any favors, a barter of some kind that involves you giving one of your body parts over to your boss. And the pushback is you're not promoted. You are, in fact, in some ways demoted, reassigned to smaller projects, while you see people that just came in through the door getting the big assignments. You know, the abuse, there are different types, there are different layers of abuse. And it all comes from a place of power. So when I think of this latest chapter with Surviving Diddy, where the suit settled, he's prancing and dancing around here like he beat something. Like, you gotta understand, like 15, 20 years with experiences coming out of one person, 35 pages, and the majority of the pushback going towards Cassie. And it's like, there's entirely too much to play semantics with. And everybody on the outside is basing it off of, oh, it's just another pretty girl with little talent who, to some degree, didn't have a power to say no. Even if she did. And she could very well have said no several times. But just like I said this week on the podcast, the troubling, sadistic part that people are not getting is that when the other person is of considerable power and influence and has somewhat of a dark, chaotic shadow around them, so many curious coincidences that go far beyond black and blue eyes. We're talking like absolute death. Just people that were healthy the day before that are no longer here. People that were riding in the same vehicle as this person. All these shots came into the vehicle. Nobody else caught those shots but this person, allegedly. Everything that Keefe D has been saying for years, stuff that Cassie has said in that 35-page filing, there are similarities. The similarities is there is no line I won't cross to get to a person I feel is a threat. And there's no measure I will not take. And the thing about it is, he doesn't have that same energy to treat women right. Think about it. It's like you have all this energy to show these very chaotic, very aggressive ways towards, let's say, competition. Even though you're with the woman now. It's all about power and control. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're doing two things, none of which makes sense. You know how you have some guys out here that are like that will that are capable of doing some very threatening, hostile things to show that they love you. And if you are somebody that is traumatized to a certain degree early on in life, that you think love equates to abuse and vice versa, or taking someone out or chasing after somebody else as evidence that this person loves you. Crazy, right? So, this chapter in Surviving Diddy, right now, Wale, it was speculated, I don't think this was in the 35-page filing, that the person that Diddy was dangling over the balcony was Wale. Wale came out recently and said, it wasn't me. I don't know where these people got this from. If I was Wale and I had just put out a new album, my response would have been flip it. Do something similar to, was it Offset? Where you do a parody or a skit. Like you could have did a Five Heartbeats thing. Because anybody that's watched Five Heartbeats knows there's a scene in the movie where Big Red dangles, I can't think of his name. What was it, Flash? Well, dangles an artist over the balcony. Well, he gets his henchman to do it. Could have turned it into a skit or a parody. That's what's in these days. Could have used that to his advantage. You know, the suits, we're past the suit. It's not any reflection on Cassie and the abuse she endured. Why not do that? Part of me feels like Wale is saving face by saying it wasn't him. Because that was oddly very specific. And if it don't apply, let it fly, right? So, nevertheless, this Diddy is really out there, allegedly. And there needs to be more discussion around what all is going on in the recording industry, or what has been going on all these years. Now, Abstract and I talked about the Adult Survivors Act, which was the impetus for Cassie filing the lawsuit, right? So, the Adult Survivors Act gives abuse survivors a 1-year window to bring forth lawsuits that would otherwise be barred by the state's statute of limitations. This brings forth civil suits, not criminal. So, as much as you would love for, AKA Love and some of these other folks, prominent people out of New York City, to be thrown in jail, that's not going to happen from a civil suit. And quiet as is kept, the release of this kind of information that they're being sued is damage enough. So in the last 24 hours, literally as we have recorded some new episodes this week, you see more stories coming out of New York City. Other women have filed under the Adult Survivors Act, which expires on November the 24th, I believe. Yes, November the 24th, which is Friday. Brooklyn State Senator Kevin Parker, accused of raping a woman he worked with in Haiti relief efforts 20 years ago. An actor from a show, White Lines, A.M. Lucas, sued for drugging and raping a woman in 2006. People wilding, People are really, really wilding. Like, to force yourself on a woman, drug them, coerce them into situations. Like, that's another layer versus we're just having fun and we're doing stuff together. Like, when we have the time, and a lot of people that use social media have a lot of time, they will find some stuff. Like, I'm still telling Paula Jai Parker to sit down somewhere and get herself together, because 35 pages is a big deal. A Virgo never forgets. Mr. Fox is a Virgo, I know this. And thirdly, there is photographic evidence. Cassie had an older IG story, and people captured it and brought it back up. The caption read, "Having had fun in Dubai," and the picture is of her with shades on and clearly a busted and swollen lip. People get up on the soapbox and on the megaphone talking about protect women. This is the perfect time to protect her and protect other women that have been under the thumbs of powerful men. This isn't this is so much more than, the superficial, dismissive, blatantly ignorant ways when it comes to women's stories. Like, she was 19. She could have said no. And did you not catch the part where he had been forcing himself on her for years? And essentially isolating her and alienating her from men she was dating, from her own career. She was also on Bad Boy, and we already know, can speculate to pretty much a reality at this point because habits to character, that this all plays a part. I hope Drew Dixon saw my tweet from my main Twitter page. I was just simply relaying a thought that was shared on TikTok, that it's funny how when that bald-headed Bama that started Def Jam many years ago was able to sell the record label, sell his all of his possessions, his house, his cars, literally every bit of anything that connects his existence to U.S. soil, and move to another country. He was on an episode of Roast Me on YouTube, and I was like, the fuck? It was like season 3, I think. I was like, the fuck is he doing here? And the thing about it, here's the other dangerous part. I'm kind of going back off of my 7 degrees of separation. Like, I don't lean as heavy into, side eyeing a lot of the artists that these people work with. Like, you will never hear me say, I'm side eyeing LL Cool J, or I'm side eyeing that high price producer with the beard that also who co-started the record label back in the 80s. I'm not like, the association. Although part of me is like, surely they saw something that didn't quite. But then again, it's like, just like Fat Joe said, love is very, very much the king of deception. Fat Joe said, he was hyping us up to, hyping us up in the club and spraying champagne everywhere. And we were like, yeah, 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 yeah. But as soon as the camera stopped flashing, he said, I want all the clothes back. And next thing you know, the Sean John clothing line is worth like $500 million. Lil' Kim has said several times in the past that love really is only in it for himself and what he can get out of it. And then he moves on. Never wrote her, called her a single time while she was in the jail. It was Mark Jacobs that was putting money in her books. But he'll damn sure be in the music video and do his little ad-libs on the songs and stuff. I learned this not too long ago, that the interesting thing about a snake bite is that you don't know you've been bitten until it's too late. Like, you literally walk out of the situation. It's not until days later. You can be the smartest person, the most street wise person, book smarts. But having a strong, confident voice and not wavering can be very persuasive on a dull mind. So you've heard it here first, that I guarantee you that in the time after November the 24th, 2023, that bald-headed man that's almost 60 years old, that has been living well and unscathed and away from accountability for about 6 or 7 years. The same bald-headed person that was exposed recently for yelling at his kids on live, kids that he had with a former model and entrepreneur that he had been pursuing while she was underage. See, there's a way to play charades in this universe. He will watch between now and, I'll say, spring of next year. He will start making appearances in the United States, start showing up to events, start going places, and he'll be in pictures. Because here's the thing, once this runs out, it'll be like the statute of limitations are back on the table. And people that have forced themselves on female executives, have sexually harassed female executives within their offices, have done the Thomas Nita Hill type of stuff, will be Teflon Dons, so to speak. Hopefully you've put the pieces together as to who I'm referring to by now. But you've heard it here first. After November 24th, 2023, this person will start popping up. Predominantly in New York City, because that's where he's from. And who knows, the cycle may begin again. If it's not going to be an executive, it's definitely going to be a young girl or younger girl. One thing about toxic people, they don't change behaviors, they change targets. This is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. It's just not enough happening. People that have had considerable power for so long and have siphoned off of other people's talents are not going broke enough, frequent enough for me. It's the Foxy I Refuse podcast, available everywhere you get your podcasts. This is our Love YouTube channel. We have the Twitter at I Refuse Podcast. We have the WordPress blog. I need to work on that a little bit more. It'll be interesting the next couple of months. And I pray and hope that everybody is more vigilant and pays closer attention going into 2024. We will catch you guys later. Peace. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse